It's been way too long, nearly 16 episodes, and you know Digi and I are not takers. So for episode 17, this is the tanking episode. We are joined by actual tankers to make sure that we talk intelligently about this topic. Not to mention, we got a couple controversies to talk about. One pretty serious, one maybe involving a hot dog. This and everything more on episode 17 of Hell, Let's Talk. Digi, welcome to episode 17.
Wow, way too long, man. I gotta tell you.
I was just kind of
like, I don't know what to do with myself anymore. This is it's been a long time coming, but we saved a good one for today. That's for sure. I think it's been held off long enough, just like our show. So good to see you again. And Sean, how you doing?
Dude, I barely made it, man. I barely made it. Last night we had a dinner party. There was a lot of wine. Don't go. I'm not gonna.
I saw the shopping basket post. That image was full of liquor in that cart.
Total wine is the greatest thing. It looks like a candy store. So anyway, I got a little rogue dead guy, a little hair of the dog, drinking off a couple glasses of wine, bottle, a couple bourbons, bottle from last night. So we're feeling good. But I mean, this episode of Get Tanked for me kind of means a little bit more because of last night. But no, I've been feeling good, man. Getting I know you and me, we've been getting the competitive juices flowing, getting some scrims to join Update 10.
And it's been fantastic. I tell you, it's been like a long time just getting into the competitive flow of things again. I mean, we had a 40v40 with WAR. Do you know what that stands for? Because I like war, but does it actually have a? Is it just war?
I don't know, but it was a good competition. We've had both the Russians, which we'll get into a little bit later. But there's actually, if you're watching live on Twitch right now, which we do the stream, there is competitive all over the spot. There's an 18v18 going on. There's a Summer Cup game, what is it? Third place game going on right now, which we're going to get to into the news. So a lot of things happening, but there really wasn't too much like news. The developers came out. Did you? I know we were kind of talking about this.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a slower pace, I think, on those dev briefs, but all the same, cheers to you and Sean. Good to be back.
Cheers. And one thing I want to cheers to is, or maybe like hope for, is Digi, where the heck is the hot fix for Update 10? I mean, is it?
Oh my goodness, yeah. We were having those theories kind of whirring back by like, it's right around this time it should be released, and then it went 2 weeks beyond that. So I don't know. Yeah. They usually drop it that same week they drop the big one. So
they've been doing a little bit more PT, one more PT. So like, okay, hey Dad, can I stay up for 5 more minutes? I was gonna say, all the news we got for you is not actually from Black Matter per se on the devs briefs, because frankly, they're not giving us a whole lot right now. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit of just a beef taco, no cheese, no lettuce, no tomato. So, I mean, I think they're just waiting to wrap it all up and put it into a big package to present out to us. But when that'll be, that's anybody's guess, I think, at this point.
With that said, Saint Marie Dumont Update 10.
Oh boy, yeah.
Still love that revision there. But let's get to a little bit of the news that we do have. And this is actually a community member, a friend of ours, and it's a shame we haven't had them on the show yet. DasAltberg came out on August 2nd with a video that, frankly, 1,500 hours in the game, I didn't know about this. He went through and said a whole lot of people didn't know this, but it's a 3-minute video. We got a clip here. We're going to show it to you just a little bit. But it's about suppression effects or suppression reduction effects in game. And really, and this was confirmed in the video he shows in Jambox and Discord. Once again, Black Matter is not known for comprehensive patch notes or things of that nature. So Jambox, the question gets asked, Jambox says like, yeah, we got a suppression reduction effect in game. And everybody's kind of like, what? And really what it is squad leaders and medics, the closer proximity you are as a soldier to them, the less suppression effect you had. And this video that he put out there, it was perfect. Yeah. Yeah, and it was
I haven't seen the video, so this is blowing my mind right now. You're telling me squads that stick together are actually more effective?
Yeah, and it's like, and it's at ranges, and from the testing that
crazy.
Das did, Altberg, that drunken German bastard that we just
very
love.
Energetic German man, yes.
It goes up to energy. So I got this picked up right here.
Get a good impression of him one of these days.
So here's the video actually showing
you
here.
You are on your own, just a single
let
guy
this play
in the
here
squad.
for a bit.
And on the right, this is you surrounded by your allies.
And you can just see this. The screen is
On
just
the
like
left, it's you on your own.
Rocking and
One
rolling
on the
there.
right, it's you on your own with the rest of
so.
your squad.
There's a squad 80 millimeters
away.
away, and as you can kind of see, it goes further and further out. And
Left
this is
the same. But on
this
the
is
right,
at 100
you are on your
meters.
own,
Okay,
while the
yeah,
rest of your
not a
squad
lot
is
of change
107
there.
meters away. It noticeably
Now
drops
watch
as soon as you're
when it's
100
just the
meters
medic
away.
and the
Here we
squad
have
leader
4
here.
people of your squad,
50
including
meters
you,
away.
while the squad leader and the medic are 50 meters away from you.
Like, to me, that is.
Wow, that's a night and day difference, man. That's
the medic and
you're,
one other person
combat
is
effective the
107
whole way
meters
through
away.
there. Bullets flying right inches from your face. That's amazing. I had
So-
no idea. And like, it's funny how we find these little things. Like, I've got 1900 hours. You've got someone similar. Like, how does this get by? And like, how does this not get mentioned? It's that's crazy.
So I actually love that this is the first time you're watching it. Because I have to say that I know a little bit in our Discord, there was a little bit when this kind of came out, there was some discussion about it. And some guys were like, man, that really kind of makes me help explain why I'm shooting at this guy and he just, like the suppression effect isn't there. Could it have somebody around it, things of that nature. Digi, do you think this is something that we could help change in a combat, like a competitive environment, public environment?
Well, shit. Does it actually give more meaning to being a medic? Like, we've always been despising the medic class. Is there a solo, is there a test that can be done just to see if just a medic has that impact on themselves, or do you need the squad leader and medic?
No, so
I want to break this apart. This is awesome.
Yeah. So Wade Jam said is the squad leader and the medic provide the biggest reduction effect. So I would assume, maybe the medic actually has a little bit more bonus to it. Does it actually make it worthwhile?
That's just crazy, man.
I don't know if it's that much, but definitely the squad leader, I was gonna say, I think it does, put an extra emphasis on staying within 50 meters, because we saw that 50 meters is not that necessarily close to.
I know somebody who's gonna have to update the general guide. I think that's gonna make it on a page, man.
That was a beginner's guide. This is an advanced topic. We're not touching that.
Yes, we'll have the advanced guide coming out sometime next year.
I still think medic is in competitive play. A medic to me is still a meme. It's still a meme. Yeah. Hey, you couldn't have a World War II game without having a medic class, so they put it in there. But without a ticket system, it's really, man. I love everybody that defends a medic, because they say that one anecdotal story. Well, one time I was assaulting and my squad leader went down and I revived him and he got an OP up and we won the entire match.
Yeah, I've had that happen too.
But the reality is that so few far in between.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Really a blue moon situation that, well, maybe it's because we don't play with enough medics in Chun, if you realize that. Yeah. But I still think the argument is, the medic class is just not selling it to me, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. It puts it in perspective. But holy hell, what other buffs might there be that we don't know? Is there more hidden?
And I think we're actually brainstorming for 2 episodes from now of doing a conspiracy theory, HL conspiracy theory.
That'll be good. I look forward to that.
So there's things that we find out, and I was gonna say DOS needed this to be highlighted one more time. I want to make sure we brought this on the show. A lot of competitive players. I think this gives an additional kind of perspective of, okay, now I might understand why he won that engagement, where there's high player density and assault and pointing, blah blah blah. But thank you, DOS, for that one.
Thank you, DOS.
So let's get into the controversies here, Digi. Now we got some controversies happening.
Yeah, there's been a few since we've been away. One of the big ones that comes across is this interview, and it's caused kind of a stir, but paid content is giving some freakouts. We briefly discussed in the last episode the DLC models. I bought it because I gave them my $20 when I first started playing. It's been a while. The devs earned some more of my money. I got the new naval pack and I look pretty good in my sailor cap. Now, articles that came out, it really put some fuel on this fire, though. Recently, the articles by PCGamesN, and they did an article that there'll be 4 major updates per year in Hell Let Loose, according to Black Matter CEO Max Ray. And I really think like what we got out of this is there was an early interview in August, and Max really just kind of laid out the plan. This is the path forward for HLL with these guys, and the 4 main things that were stated was 4 expansions.
Yep.
1 will be paid. 1 will be similar to the Soviet forces, so we could see an expansion into another military group, maybe another from front. Canada always kind of make a appearance at some point. British models, which won't be paid for. That will be free DLC, is the understanding from this interview. And then there'll be expansions. But the important thing is the expansions will not split the community. So if either you have it or you don't have it, it will not affect the overall gameplay and effectiveness. So again, you're not paying to win. You're not getting those buffs by spending an extra cheddar. I think it's just going to be cosmetic, and you'll just kind of see that stuff. Nothing will be behind the paywall, which is good.
And that is, and you broke that down, quickly, because those are 4 individual things that was stated in this. Yeah. We got the article up on the screen right now, and some people read this and weaved this story, and the clickbait videos came out. Some good friends, some good things, and basically said the British will be behind a paywall. If you want new maps, you're going to have to pay for them. And just created this narrative that just went off on its own. And I think this is where we have a little bit of faith. You got to have a little bit of faith. Yeah. With this development team.
I think the intentions. I mean, it's always from the first intentions. This game has always been inclusive for everybody to be at the same level. I mean, I 100% get behind a game where you're not even level capped to like a weapon perk or bonus. Like you don't get a scope on your STG 44 after level 9. Like it's the same weapons all the way through. Some are class
German
locked to a
level, but German assault level 9 kind of push that envelope a little bit.
Yeah, you get a satchel charge. Yes. Yes.
But yeah, the video is just, I think this came like crazy, and there's going to be this. You're not going to be able to join this server unless you have this. And let's remember that a line in here that, will not split the community. And then also, if you go back to one of the last AMAs, they kind of state multiple times that, hey, we are a business. Like we're trying to make money, and we're going to try to find new innovative ways for them to come out. So I had this on there, and then it actually kind of created a little bit of the Reddit took it and ran with it, and the poll went up, which I thought was interesting here. And you can see which one I voted for. Yes, British paid DLC would be okay. I like the one that he just said neutral. I just want to see the post. I forgot who made this post, but I like that option. 456, about relatively even, said British DLC not okay. And then a lot majorities in the cosmetics.
That was my vote. I think the paid cosmetics, I mean, again, if they keep coming out with different uniforms, I think that's fine. I think that'll definitely still people jump on it. And then the small packages too. Like it doesn't need to be all this, because once you start getting into the $20 DLCs and it's like 20 different things, I think that gets a little bit beyond the aim of it. I mean, I don't know, when you start to kind of think camouflaging, maybe there is a buff and a bonus. Like that sailor uniform is dark, but I mean I think the base Russian uniform already blends in so well with Tiki Briki Stalingrad, so like I mean, you already got the best camo in the game from the base model.
Just Russians in those wayfields.
Oh my god!
But I mean, let's take a moment and let's breathe and let's remember that the Russians were not paid content. Paid content came out in conjunction with the new thing, as in cosmetics. So before everybody starts jumping on this and we're just out for a cash grab, let's look at what has been said, what has been done, and what was stated in this article, and not try to freak out too much. And in fact, if you look at the biggest freak out, this still wasn't as bad as the shiny OP freak out that Reddit had with the last PTEs.
Yeah, and then after that, it was kind of like, it's not that big of a deal.
It's not that big a deal, but There is an OP
you're gonna hear it before
controversy.
you see it.
There is an OP controversy, Digi.
Oh boy, yes there is, and man, it's been making the rounds through all the internet forums.
Yeah.
Before the show, I brought this in. It needs to be discussed. Hot Dog 7, Hound Dog 7. And as another bonus, you'll hear it in the clip. There's a little bit of another one in the phrasing, but the OPs and Garrison's communication chatter, as introduced with this latest update, have a clip that's kind of making people ask what the hell they're actually saying in there.
Yeah, and this is like, I think this is like the equivalent of what was it 2 years ago? Is the dress gold? Is the dress blue? Like
blue,
people hear what they want to hear. and credit, Mosca wasn't able to join us. He was actually on a train ride right now. Mosca created it's called a lazy illustrator, captioned this whole thing, and the community's had fun with it. We got Hot Dog 7 being your burly, manly dog, and then Hound Dog being the little wimpy dog. Digi, before we get into this clip, let's once again, I love Reddit polls. I love seeing what the masses think.
Yeah.
Overwhelming amount say it's Hot Dog 7.
Of course.
It's got to be Hot Dog 7. So you talked about this clip. We're going to be silent here for the 38 seconds or so.
Well, quickly before you play it, what's your vote?
What's my vote? Okay, well, let's go out of that. So my vote, now granted, I originally thought Hot Dog 7. I heard Hot Dog 7. And
what's more American than a hot dog? Come on.
Yeah, I was going to say Hot Dog 7 and Hamburger 28,
Yeah.
French fry.
Exactly.
But
I'm right there with you. I thought it was Hot Dog 7 until I put on my real listening ears and sat there and just looked at it and was like,
yeah,
you know what? I think these Hound Dog fools are onto something.
Yep. So
let's roll clip.
Let's roll this clip. Listen to the first time. I think you're going to hear from the forward element. You're going to hear what is a little garbled, easily sounds like hot dog. But when you hear the receiving end or the support going back,
it's more clear.
Yeah. Basically. So 38 seconds. We're going to hear this. And
this is Hound Dog 7. Target. Fire 4 attacks. Over. Local Hound Dog 7 sending you 10 rounds HE and 5 Willie Peter. On the way. And the impact in 8 seconds. Over.
I get that impact in 8 seconds.
This is Sugar 50. Sending you 1 round Willie Peter. Oh, wait. Hound Dog 7.
Well, I think you heard
that
it there
right there,
clearly,
yeah.
folks. It is Hound Dog 7.
That
Come
last
on.
one, Hound Dog 7. That's what it is. So now, how
Guy
much
who
of this?
enunciates his words.
Yes. So now, Digi, who do you think Hound Dog 7 is requesting artillery support from?
Oh my goodness, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. We were trying to find out where this clip came from. Max, Ray, please. I know you guys watch this. Where did you get these clips from? We want to know.
Because if there's a domino,
go ahead.
is it Sugar Pie or Sugar like?
Yeah, is it Sugar 5-0? Sugar Pie? I mean, Sugar 5?
Hearing it multiple times, I think I'm gonna go ahead and stake my flag. We're putting it in. It's Hound Dog 7 requesting artillery support from Sugar 50. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm calling on.
But for the lulz, I'm going to say anybody who asks me, it's going to be Hot Dog 7 and Sugar Pie, man.
Yeah.
I think that's
down home Alabama.
Why not? It's so American. Oh, boy. But we had to put that in, guys. Let us know your thoughts in the chat. We'll definitely have a follow-up, and I think this will get posted up on the Reddit as well.
Yeah.
Conclusively.
Yeah, to the 578 people, we feel you. But here's one thing before I get off of radio comms, and this is a pet peeve of mine. And for guys that have been in the game, you know what kind of mood I'm in because I'm gonna be advised. You heard nothing in there saying "be advised" Hot Dog 7 or Hound Dog 7, depending where you heard that clip. Just let's stop with the "be advised." It's not even good milsim because we don't say it in the military. There's not "be advised" in the military. So anyway,
just so you know,
yeah, interrogative
or your information.
No,
it's just more words than we're saying. You know,
yeah.
Just cut to the shit.
Speaking of cutting to it and being down to brass knuckles, brass tacks, we're gonna go with. let's get our competitive update because there is a lot of competitive news going on right now. We're going to try to get through this quickly because essentially we got 4 different things to talk about. You got the Summer Cup, who I think no surprise, Pi and Core have made it into the finals. They have been undefeated going through all the Swiss system play. They have knocked out everybody. In fact, I want to say how dominating their performance is here. They took down 501st and Bastardos in 23 minutes, 5-0. Wow. They took down BWR in 18 minutes. They have the last 2 matches. They have only played 41 minutes of a 90-minute match. That's how dominating they've been. And the only people that are left in their way of the championship is the Hive.
Which this prep time takes longer than that.
Prep time takes longer than that twice. Yeah. In fact, Digi, I think there's a match going on right now, correct? Right
at this moment, there's a match going on for 3rd place. It's between 116 STDB partnership versus the 501 BSTD.
The Bastardos.
On Carrington. The Bastardos. So that'll be a good matchup for 3rd place. It's taking place right now. I don't know if we have a link or anything. But yeah, definitely a good tournament put together there for the Summer Cup.
Yeah, thank you to the Night First on that one. Catch back on this stream. Myself and Mono, we will be broadcasting the finals, and we'll see if Hive has it in them or if Pi and Core are just going to dominate this tournament. Coming up, and speaking of domination,
right now we're here, and it's going on right now is the 18v18s double elimination tournament. It's live in full effect. So far, there's already been 20 teams whittled down to 8. So we are flying through that tournament. We saw some newcomers in BWCC, HLY, 1CDO, and DIB get knocked out early. But there's been some surprises with the BR1 folks and EXD being knocked out early, going 0-2. Favorites still in the tournament are the training camp, 82nd AD, which actually they just finished up a round. 82nd AD just knocked out the training camp. Or should I say knocked out or just beat the training camp? I'm not sure if it's a double.
Before we recorded, I saw 82nd take the first match. Some guys here in chat might catch us up to see if 82nd was able to take the second match. But that battle going on right now.
And then you have DC and Odd Company, still in there. There's a lot of good favorites that are participating in the 18v18s. As just a summary of what that is, it's just all squad tactics. You got really small units fighting over 1 point for about 30 minutes, so it's really hot and fast. But I mean, it's been a real Cinderella run from this Chinese team ARO, who's currently undefeated. So a lot of surprises, a lot of new names. I think the competitive scene's never been more alive at this point. So I think it's just been fantastic to see all these new tournaments and new teams coming in.
Yeah, ARO.
What do you got next? We got our 3rd one here, and this one's the one to look forward.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the Premier League. The Premier League will be kicking off here in September. I forgot the exact date on it. I know the TR1 guys are going to hit me up later on that one. But the American and the European division is locked in. I was going to say some quick glances on this one. Next episode, we're going to dive into more of these, each one. Strum Elite, the Brazilians coming out of South America.
Good players.
Great players. Really like to see them now on the international scene, seeing what they could do. The 5, they're in this now. We just talked about them, how they're going to be possibly the only ones to stop Core from taking the Summer Cup championship or title champion. But I mean, Core's back in this one again. Core's in there. These guys cannot get enough competitive HL, and they're in this tournament. In fact, they're also in the next tournament that starts on October 2nd, and that is Digi.
Well, the next and the oldest one that I've been playing with is the fall seasonal, as run through the lovely fellas at WTH and Heidegger, Master Heidegger. It's a really strong lineup of teams as always. You got some familiar faces with WTH, 82nd AD, the training camp, KRT, and Odd Company are matching up again. They did fantastically as a partnership. And then you got new faces of EDC and Goff, or Gary's OnlyFans is what I learned yesterday, what that stands for. You have and merging with Esprit de Corps, and that will be a good partnership to see how that flushes out. Then
obviously, we're a little biased. We're a little biased
on that one. And then we have CNET, the Chinese team, and then we also got Finns Let Loose has got a competitive team that's going to be taking part in that, and I can't wait to see those Finns get loose. And then you have the CSP from Czechoslovakia. Am I saying that correctly? And it'll be really good new faces, a lot of old faces, and then really credit to Core for being in both tournaments at the same time. That is a lot of work for your guys. So all props to you guys to make it work. So needless to say, we've got the Premier League and we got the seasonal going on at the same time. And next episode, we are going to do a deep dive further with these competitive scenes that are just starting to kick off, and really just get into those two leagues a little bit more into detail next episode.
Correct.
But now let's get into the main stuff.
Let's get right into it. So, we talked about, I mean, it's no secret. Digi and I, every time there was a news or something around with tanks, I think the answer was, and that's the news, and we're not takers.
Yeah. I like the ground game.
But tanking is one of these aspects that it's its own subsect of the community that has so much influence on the meta, on any match. You've been in the matches where if you don't have armor superiority, you're just struggling. So to bring in two guys that really know what they're talking about, I'm going to go ahead and introduce General T, who's from Esprit de Corps there. General T, welcome. Thank you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And if you've seen the Tank Bible from the line, Koleto. Koleto? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, Koleto, yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks for having me, John.
And we, in true tank fashion, we wanted to have a crew of 3 because every tanking crew needs 3, or maybe they don't. We'll ask that here in a little bit. But Chokarion from DC, Chokarion, we're gonna get with the other ones. He's actually in that 18v18 tournament right now. Once he finishes battles, we'll see if we can't get him on. But these are our guests. To just give a little bit of background, T, you want to kind of how you got into tanking, your tanking background? I know you actually won a tanking tournament, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a couple months ago, there was a competitive match which was all tanks. Forgive me, I can't remember BR1. I think you all organized it, but I'm not 100% sure. It's been a minute. Yeah, Koleto, I think you were in that as well, actually.
It was a TL BR1 event that was tanking back in Update 9.
Yeah, It was super fun. So yeah, all tanks. I guess you could say the claim to fame. I was 1/3 of the tank crew that that got MVP on the winning team, MVP in the match as well. We had a great time. I got into tanking because kind of my MO is try to do the thing that no one else wants to do that needs to be done. And tanking isn't super popular, and so I've become a tank driver because nobody wants to drive tanks in this game. So it's just kind of the garbage work, but it needs to be done.
Such a great skill, though.
If it doesn't get done,
is a big thing in itself.
Yeah, so that's how I got into it.
Shoot, but driving, that's where the real skill's at.
Claire, how about you?
Yep, go ahead, Glenn.
Oh, well, I mean, I've been playing since Update 6, and there has been... Like I started playing, infantry and then SL, and then I wanted to start playing tank, but there wasn't a lot of information out there for exactly how the tank mechanics worked. So I guess my sort of claim to fame was spending time, testing tanks and going in empty servers just to find out the mechanics of the game, and made a document called the Tank Bible that really described all of those. So yeah, I've been tanking since then, and it's been a really fun time.
Now, your preferred role in a tank?
Well, I can play any role, and I love every role. But in competitive matches with my team, I'm a driver, because it's really easy for me to, like, if I'm a spotter and tank commander, I'm usually the one who makes the decisions, so I want to be able to just, like, at a moment's notice, drive to the exact position I want without having to micromanage a driver.
Gotcha.
And in addition to that Tank Bible, there's been a recent release of the Tankopedia website, and we'll put that up in the chat there too for all of you aspiring tankers. There's a lot of good resources that have become available. Tank Bible's a great document. I learned a lot out of that just from the testing. We'll post up that link for the Tankopedia as well. It'll give you a little bit more information on what is what and, you know, every little aspect, because it seems to change just about every update. And then with this last release, there's been a lot of new reworkings. So keeping on top of it is important.
And we might go back and reference on there, just flash it up on the screen for you guys. Definitely check that out. But all right, let's get into this. General T, I'll start with you here. What was tanking like before update 10? Was you just accepting the suck that was being the redheaded stepchild of Hell Let Loose?
Yeah. I mean, I remember running a squad with you a lot, and so you would be like, you know, go get in that iron coffin. Yeah. Embrace the suck is the good way to put it. You just it's an exercise in patience because it was so inconsistent. It was necessary. You had to do it, but it was so inconsistent in the armor dynamics that, you know, if you were good, you could find those weak points in a tank and one shot another heavy with a medium or a heavy. But sometimes it was just random. And so it was very frustrating at times. You know, when you're on the good end of that, it's great, but it's just the consistency that they've brought in update 10 is just it's so good.
We'll get to the update 10 here in a little bit, but if you had to give one of your biggest just gripes about tanking before update 10, and then we'll get to maybe what's changed, what was like the number one point of frustration for you prior to update 10 and tanking?
Very specific. I can give you an extremely specific example. The fact that the vent tubes on the Tiger on the back extend over the top, and you can shoot them from the front if you're a good gunner and get a rear shot when you have front armor facing as a Tiger, which is just...
What?
Yeah, it used to be that way. It used to be that way.
That's what separates the noobs from the tanking guys.
So, I mean, you know, if I was in a 76, I'd be destroying them. But if you're in a Tiger, that sucks. So I'm so glad they got rid of that.
Yeah. Koleto, how about you? Tanking before update 10.
Yeah. So, I mean, like General T said, there was a lot of shots that were buggy, or sometimes you'd shoot, you know, a particular area of a tank that's supposed to be able to penetrate, and it just either wouldn't or it would bounce or something like that. But I guess the thing that I disliked most was not actually that inconsistency, but it was the fact that there was... I think the devs talked about it in the dev brief, that it had to do with barrel physics. Basically, you'd stop in a spot as a tank, and you would try to aim down, like, depending on whether you were on even ground or uneven ground. If you were on uneven ground, sometimes the barrel would shake itself while you're trying to aim.
Historically accurate, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So stable.
And sometimes even like your barrel wouldn't shake, but the shot that you shoot would be off to an angle. It wouldn't go where the reticle was. And so it's stuff like that has just been completely cleared up in update 10.
So I'll give you a curious. And granted, I'm not a tanker, and one reason why I was not a tanker when I first was getting my Hell Let Loose feet wet, jumped into tank, foy, and a snow berm stopped me. Like, how am I in this multi-ton vehicle and I can't get over this snow berm type deal?
Oh my
gosh,
I
think that
those
was
were the
just
dark
like
days.
Oh my god! And credit to anybody that still tanks on Omaha,
Fences.
because the amount of just up things you can't drive through or get up. I mean, that's just, there's a frustration. The mobility.
It used to be you couldn't even go like past trenches without getting stuck.
Oh, God,
and I was like, that's why tanks were invented in the real world.
And it was funny because you guys are talking about this. I remember running with tankers. They're like, come on in, Sean, I'll show you how to do this. And we get stuck and they're like, all right, I'm going to move the barrel this way. I'm going to try to push us off. And then at this point, I'm going to fire the propeller or something. It's like, how is this a thing? Like, why can't I just drive over this? Or anyway, so that was the dark ages of tanking, right?
Now we're out of it. Yeah. They basically made the barrel so it doesn't have collision, and that fixed up a lot of stuff. I think I honestly I would just rack my head how many Austin Powers turn you have to make on many of the maps. And the other updates that I noticed were, for me, it doesn't tank, was the speed dynamics have changed and the gearing ratios. And wow, does that ever feel just bad taking a turn now? Like, I feel like I'm crashing a lot more than I used to, but I think everybody got the hang of it. It's like driving the trucks for the first time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for coming into update 10, are we? I mean, how would you describe tanking now in update 10? Are we out of the dark ages? Are we getting there? Are we? What's your take, T?
I think we went from, and I love tanking, so I'm not trying to bash the devs here because I think it's a work, it's a work of love and it's a work in progress. So I think they've made great strides. I think we came from like a D at update 9, and I think we're at like a B plus right now.
B plus.
So we're in good space, but with update 10, yeah, Digi, as you were saying, the driving mechanics have changed. In some ways for the better, in other ways not. Like it can be really frustrating trying to just make a simple turn.
Yeah.
So there's some areas that and some of the collision mechanics. I was in a tank last week and we managed to clip a little bit of like a post, and then all of a sudden we were upside down like a turtle, like flipped on its back. I mean, what? So there's some areas that need some growth, but on the whole, and John, to answer your question, I think we're at a pretty good space. Some fine tuning, but solid foundation at this point.
Would you think like map updates is going to be a big difference too? I mean, I know some of the maps haven't received that updating. You can still collide with a lot of the stuff you can't on other maps.
Yeah, that's a great point. It could be a map dynamic or map physics thing and not an armor thing. So that's a good question. That'd be a question for the devs to answer. But yeah, whatever it is, if it's the tanks themselves or how they interact with maps and just maps need to be updated, whatever it is, that's probably the biggest thing that still needs some work.
Yeah, the chat over here is talking about skipping gears. You couldn't skip gears anymore. Duke was saying that. So another one of our tankers.
Yeah.
But now, Koleto, for you, as far as the gunplay, I mean, are there still those those magical? I actually never knew about the exhaust front on, but are there still those one hit wonder shots?
Yeah, so
testing?
tanking and no. The short answer is no. And if I may come in here with a contrasting opinion,
you may. That's why we love talk shows.
That's what we're here for.
I think tanking has been significantly streamlined now to the point where it has removed a lot of the like higher skill cap that if you were a good tanker you would enjoy. Update 10 is like a mixed bag because on the one hand, as I've described, they've already fixed a lot of things that were really aggravating before, like that barrel shake I mentioned, stuff like that. I mean, the consistency in the hits, there's no buggy hits anymore. Like where you shoot is where you hit. But at the same time, each individual tank in update 9 had its own characteristics and had its own it had its own way of hitting other tanks and like a different damage. And now every single tank of the same class does the same thing. So your Sherman Jumbo 76, your Tiger, and your IS-1 are all heavies, and they all do the same damage pretty much to enemy mediums and enemy heavies, and the mediums like do very similar things. There are a couple of exceptions, but basically all of those one-shot spots that you had to know have been either removed entirely or have been changed in a way that you can't utilize them as easily.
And that'll lead into my next question. Like, would you say one particular faction has advantage over the other? Like, what's the best faction right now with the armor advantage? And is it really specific to a certain class of armor?
Yeah, so I would say that I agree with Chokarion, who wrote some notes here. I would agree with him that the Soviet tanks are probably the best tanks, but I don't think it's that. Like, it's very close because there are some ricochet spots on the IS-1 that, the Tiger does not have those spots. But by and large, at the highest competitive level, there's still ample opportunity to destroy IS-1s without hitting those ricochet spots. So from that perspective, in my opinion, like the tanks are actually very similar across all teams.
Gotcha. So here's a question for you: Is that? I mean, you definitely described the way it is right now. Is that a bad thing or a good thing? Because I was going to say, I know there were certain times when you're just like, okay, it's a 76. Like, we're screwed. Like, the 76 is going to outclass that asymmetrical balance. We had an episode a little while back ago. Is asymmetrical balance in armor a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion? T, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Koleto, by the way, that like it definitely has lowered the skill threshold for a gunner, at least, and just tanking in general. It seems to me that from the dev's perspective, that's very intentional. And yeah, you and I are a little bit of a different of opinion in that. For me, yes, I think that's a good thing. I think consistency makes balancing more simple. And I think it lowers the negative side effect is it does lower the skill threshold. But the positive side of that is it makes it easier for new tankers to get in and not be super frustrated. Because like Inchon, the situation you described early on is like, you had a frustration in a tank and then you gave up tanking, right? And so
and no one was building
like,
garrisons. I can't build garrisons as a tanker.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying like the experience you're describing is pretty widespread. Is somebody like the tanking is inconsistent or it's too complicated. And so, it's a balance because Hell Loose is a milsim kind of, right? It's not squad, but it's also not battlefield. So it's kind of somewhere in that middle zone. So whether the devs have found the right balance or not is probably an existential question that we might not, come to a conclusion on here. But yeah, I think it's a solid mechanic. I like it. I like the simplicity of it. And I think the skill curve is changing a little bit where really it's less about where do you shoot and how do you position the tank. So I think in some ways the most important kind of role in the tank is the driver and the tank commander getting you to the right spot versus the gunner having the skill to hit the right section of the armor. Now, so I think it's a change in that sense.
Digi, Koleto mentioned that Chokarion put some notes in there. You want to go ahead and read his notes so we make sure we get his voice into this conversation?
Yeah, so Chokarion, from that first question of how you would describe it in Update 10, I think this is really good foundations of tanking for Update 10, but it still needs improvement. And that's everything, right? So we will see this with the Update 11, Panzer IV introduction, and perhaps a new medium tank meta will come to the scene with that because, right now it's Panther or Tiger, and nobody plays the light tank for the Germans, so... but slower pace due to driving and turning nerfs, I think, made things a little different. But basic but consistent hitboxes on tanks, as you guys have been agreeing with, and only the heavy tanks dominate now. Same heavy meta since Update 7, except mediums rarely have a chance against a heavy tank. And the anti-tank is more powerful due to slower turning on tanks, and I think that's a very fair and valid point. There's less... I think they tried to change the AT, but it's still, get 4 rockets. Only need 2 to really kill something.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, both tankers have to be happy. Like, here's a question.
Yeah, I think they
like,
tried to touch it.
Mines, Mines used to one shot you guys. You're just dead, and like now, tankers, like AT players, like, do you feel that AT is not as effective against you guys as before, or? I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, Satchel's back. If one hits you guys, if you're a tanker and you're stationary for a Satchel to get you, you should die. That's my opinion.
Yeah, what's your take, General T? What do you think for the AT changes they've made?
Yeah, the way AT kills you has changed, but their effectiveness has not changed. Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be balanced, right? If infantry has no possible way to kill a tank, that's OP. It cannot just be that tanks clear tanks. There has to be another way. So I get that, and I like to play AT sometimes. So got to have balance in all things here.
The dark side.
But yeah, the satchel meta is just that is the way you take out tanks, and they're so much slower that, like you say, tanks should be punished. It's actually harder than you might think if you spot infantry coming up behind you. It's slower to get out of the tank than it used to be by a little bit, and you turn so much slower, so it can actually be challenging to get out in time even if you spot them. So a talented AT player is still fully capable of taking down a tank, and that's how it should be. So
Koleto, what's been your feelings there for AT players with the changes?
I actually lean more towards the fact that it's a little bit harder to kill tanks with AT now. The satchels are a one shot, but
depending on where you place it and the tank, right?
Right.
The
but
Tiger's weird.
You can also, like, if you manage to turn around and kill that person, it's on a 30-second fuse, so you can get out and defuse it. And on top of that, the AT itself, like rockets, the bazooka can't deal damage to the sides of a Tiger, for example. And if you're shooting, it used to be a 2-shot in the rear of a Tiger with the bazooka. Now it's a 3-shot. Similarly, for other tanks, for other heavy tanks of other teams, Panzer Shrek is also a 3-shot. to the jumbos and to the IS-1. So if you're playing in a heavy tank, you're actually going to be able to take one more shot in practice than you used to have to be able to. So I think that counteracts the whole turning mechanic having been slower. And if I may, I wanted to say one more thing on the U11.
Go ahead.
Just to add on a positive note, I do think that this is a really good foundation to in like an update 11, if they could add the ability to like add more nuance to the tanking, add some shots that maybe are a little bit more
Erratic.
Right, like well, not erratic, but a little bit more nuanced in the sense that, like, you know, like you should be rewarded for hitting a hard shot. For example, mediums. Say, like right now, if you're in a medium tank and you come up against a heavy tank, like head on, there's absolutely nothing you can do. There's no surface you can hit it that will penetrate, and that heavy tank will one shot you anywhere in the body or anywhere in the turret.
Is that almost like hitting the viewport on the Tiger? You know, that little slit? Like that should be a kill, right?
You can't. You're right. Like there should be
glass.
some kind of shot where like you can penetrate. You know, if you know the exact shot and if you have the right. And so a little bit more nuance is kind of what I think a lot of tankers want. But like the baseline of starting to fix all of the buggy hitboxes and stuff like that's good, and I like that baseline.
Well, and I was about to
let me throw some fuel on something, and specifically, let me just say, what would your guys' thoughts be if they had a fuel dynamic?
As like you run out of fuel as you get further along,
you could potentially run out of fuel, and maybe it's a support has to refuel, or you actually have to go to the fuel node. Because I'm just thinking a little out of the box as to why they have that one dynamic for the support and supplies. And I think it was mentioned before that maybe that fuel node actually comes into play for another reason. Let me just like start some controversy here, but where'd you guys be? I know technically the tanks could run for 20 kilometers and longer, right? But bear that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, would it add some complexity to the game? Sure. Would it make nodes have a purpose? Because right now nodes are just purposeless. There's my hot take. But yes, but would it really genuinely add anything necessary or useful to a tank in the tanking dynamic? Or would it just be unnecessary clutter? I would say the latter. I'm not sure how that would necessarily improve the overall gameplay for tanks, for commanders, for just the whole thing. It's hard for me to see the why. If you can make a convincing argument, I'm open to being convinced.
Well, I got here in the chat, World War Banana. What if you shot someone's fuel tank and it leaks? Bring some realistic atmosphere. I mean, if you shot someone's fuel tank, I think it'd explode, but like I don't think it'd just leak.
The crew has to get out and like extinguish the fire.
You have to trace with your welding gun, actually, and fix a hole.
We are not tankers.
It's more complexity, all right? I mean, it's where do you want the game, I guess. It's like how much more is too much, I suppose. I mean, you already got to drive all the way back because nobody builds a repair station. So...
Well, and Koleto,
or you got to get ammo at the base HQ too.
Yeah, Koleto, I like what you said because I was starting to cringe a little bit when you were describing some variation. And I don't know if you can see this. Here's my World of Tanks T-shirt
here it comes.
From back in the day. Yeah, I was gonna say you followed my T1 Cunningham all the way to a 10 or 10. Like I was heavy into World of Tanks back in the day. And I remember one of the things that just drove skilled players so much was the RNG damage values. And I think that is one thing that I kind of cringe back on it if I say, hey, I hit a same spot there and I have a range variation of damage of plus or minus 10%. Mm-hmm. Hey, it can kill it in 2 shots, but then again, RNG, you could kill it in 3 shots. I mean, would you even want anything like that kind of in there to have a little bit of randomness to where it's not always just, hey, you just described, I'm in a Panther, I go against a 76, I'm dead. Would you like some RNG factor in there or keep it out?
I don't want any RNG. I personally don't think RNG is the answer, but you can still add nuance without having to deal with RNG. Maybe you could add new mechanics. I mean, as Digi was saying, or maybe instead of fuel, you could think about a penetrating shot could potentially kill one or more of the crew, or like hurt them making them have to get out and bandage or something like that. And it could add some extra nuance to the game that isn't RNG. Like, you should still be able to shoot, know that, like, this is 2 shots, this is 3 shots. And because in my opinion, randomness really takes away from the skill as opposed to adding to the skill.
I'm right there with you. I do want to be in the command or squad channel. We were like, T, we gotta get out of here. T, we gotta get out of here. I'm dead. I'm spawning at a garrison. I'm like,
caught a bit of shrapnel inside the hole. I like that. That's actually not a bad idea there, Koleto.
Yeah.
I think that's some nuance and some realistic ability there. That maybe that has some play. I mean, if you can wound a tank and he gets away, his squad member bleeding out. Depending, I don't know where you hit it. If you hit the top turret and now your spotter's bleeding, or if you hit the driver's side and he's bleeding, I don't know how you would.
I think if you hit like that hole mounted MG where the driver sits behind, I think you kill the driver, you hit the viewport, you can kill the commander.
Oh, how crazy would that be? All of a sudden your tank's still technically alive, but it's not moving anywhere. You've killed the driver. How crazy would that be? All of a sudden,
he's over there just rubbing his forehead.
Yeah,
just like, well, I don't even know why I came on this show.
These the non-takers coming in with like crazy ideas for how to run tanks.
As if it isn't challenging enough. You're just looking for ways to make it work.
Hey, well, you did see what picture I put in behind me here. Hold on, let me get to the right side. That's me as a squad leader. Oh yeah, the new players guy. There it is. Tank on my position. I gotta get to the right.
The other, thoughts is, beyond fuel. I think just looking for those little complexities to add that extra skill level is great. But if you're still running a tank with no infantry support, you deserve to get blown up. Let's, real honesty. A bad tanker's still gonna die.
So
at the end of the day.
Let's get back into the tanking realm with these two guys here. And let's talk tanking strategies. Both of you guys, it sounds like drivers actually are one of the most critical roles because of positioning. T, you were talking about that. Let's give me a little your take. If you're heading to engagement, there's a call out. Digi or I said we got a enemy 76 coming out of middle spawn. Walk us through some of your thought process and different strategies for engaging that tank.
Yeah, 100%. So kind of as Koleto has said, like, if you're in a medium, there's nothing you can do front on. So if I'm in a Panther, like I can't, then I immediately know, okay, I have got to get behind that thing. So that's my only chance. So one thing that's really changed because of the simplicity of like the armor system is that squad leader callouts on where the tank is and what it is are critical. I mean, they were important before, but oh my gosh, it's everything now. Because if someone just tells you it's a tank and you're like, I have to take a gamble about what type of tank it is, I might, as a medium or a light, run headfirst into a heavy on accident and be like, well, okay, I guess I'll just die now. I think of that meme. So if I'm in a medium and it's a heavy, then I'm going map edge and I'm going all the way around to get behind him and to surprise him. If I'm in a heavy, then what really matters is that I'm in a stationary position while he's still moving. Because when it's heavy to heavy, whoever gets the first shot, as long as you've got a decent gunner, is going to win, because it's just 2 shots. And so whoever gets their first one off and reloads faster and gets that second one off is going to win. So you don't want to be moving when you engage because you're just too many variables. So, who sees who first, who's kind of got the drop on them. Those are things that are going through my mind as a tank commander and or a driver.
Yeah, who's spotter in their tank left their chair to go make a drink. I've done that before. It's like, come back. What happened? We got shot. It's like, oh, sorry.
Once again, do not put myself or Digi in a tank. Okay, what's some of the strategies for you, buddy? What's T talked about how you're engaging a tank. Is there any defensive strategies that you want to highlight or something from that aspect?
Sure. So the big things now are in update 9, patch 15, they removed the ability to shoot through bushes. And they have now brought that back with update 10. So now you can shoot through bushes again. And if you're in, like we played a competitive match yesterday where tanks can now sit in comp games where you sit behind a bush or you sit in a position where you can control the angles that people can engage you on, and then you wait for pings and you can shoot them but because you can shoot as a heavy, because you can shoot anywhere in the body of enemy heavies or enemy mediums, you can I call it bush cheesing, like you've never been able to do before. So that's one strategy. The other one is, if you're in a medium, you just rely on your teammates or your teammates who are in tanks with heavies to deal with other heavies. You just like General T's strategy of flanking can work out, but personally I don't like flanking because it's very high risk, high reward. And if I want to be on a team, it's better for me to, you know, find a place with cover where I can shell infantry to my heart's delight, without having to expose myself to heavy tanks.
Now, when you say that's risk, is the bigger threat of risk is being that you're going to be not have infantry support, you're going to get swarmed by those ET players? Is that
that's correct? Yeah, that's correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I was going to say that's good. Digi, what other questions you got for our panel here?
Yeah, I've got to say, 2-man to 3-man. I mean, it's now gone the way of, you know, it takes a long time to switch between the two. Public versus competitive games, like, can you still get away with a 2-man crew on a public game? Could you play a 2-man tank on a competitive match? What's your thoughts there, General?
Yeah, well, just yesterday we did 2-man tank. We had 3 tank squads and we did all of them 2-man. Just kind of an experiment. It was just a scrim, so this is like where we kind of work out the kinks, right? It worked all right. I mean, there's a huge advantage. There's no 2F-SANs or other ways around it. Like 3-man tank is stronger. It just is. And so in a public match, I've very successfully 2-man tank with a good crew and a decent number of our guys. But if I'm like going in and I don't, you know, just kind of playing by myself or just a handful of friends, you got to have 3-man, because you just might not be able to rely on those call outs, which are so much more important now. And you need your spotter. And because it matters so much in a heavy to heavy fight, who gets the first shot, the several seconds it takes to switch positions, that's the whole ball game, you know. And so if your spotter is jumping into the gunner, you're dead. So 3-man tanks are the way to go, but you can make it work with a really good team in a competitive scene with good tankers. You can compensate for that. But when we're doing in competitive, what we did, at least in my tank, we just rolled no spotter and we just totally relied on enemy to spot for us. That's the only situation that works. And it's just kind of few and far between that you're going to have that good of a crew in a public match. It's my 2 cents.
Fair.
Yeah, for me, I would say that General T is right. He has the right take. And obviously in pubs, I mean, if you're good enough at, you know, positioning, then you can get away with 2-man. In comp games, it's very, very situational, in my opinion. We played a comp match yesterday where you could sit, we played Utah Beach, and the Americans can just like, right out of HQ, they just roll up onto the top of the beach.
Yeah,
and
berm.
They can just, that berm, they can just sit there as a duo, turn the engine off even if they want, and they can see the entirety of the playfield up until, you know, WN4, the middle area. So if fighting's going on their half of the map, then they can just sit on that beach. They don't need a driver. AT's not going to chase them all the way to HQ, most likely. So really, it's just a spotter and a gunner, and maybe in those specific situations you could do it. Otherwise, 3-man is the way to go.
Sounds like windmill on Kursk as well, too. You could see quite a bit from there.
Talk about cheesing. Oh my gosh, that spot. Ridiculous.
You can kill tanks and spawn from that spot.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's Choke's kind of take on that. The 2-man crew, still viable, but worse if both players are absolutely micromanaging to hell with pre-switching seats and already knowing what to do in every situation and being literally 6 seconds ahead of the situation. The 3-man tanks, it's better for the micromanage. 3-man is more needed due to slow turn speed and more micromanagement against AT. So I think of that more what he's talking about is like a roaming tank. You know, you can really have the flexibility to run 3-man if you're more roaming than stationary. So you guys have been saying the new consistent but basic combat engages with tanks makes 3-mans more worth it. In other words, in Update 9, you can take a 3-man crew and get one shot by a glitch spot, which would almost beg you not to play it, as it wouldn't be worth it, as a solo tanker could easily kill a 3-man. And that's very true. So now everything's kind of got that balancing going around. it makes a lot of sense where, you know, you don't have to worry about the one solo tanker just in the prime spot, just like in one tap you.
I mean, the solo tanking's dead,
yeah.
right? Solo's tanking's
It
dead.
should be. You're still gonna see it in pub matches, right? My squad's open. Nobody wanted to join me, man, and you know, like it's whatever.
Yeah, we've gone. TL has gone down to banning solo tanking in our servers because it's just like it's so bad that it's just a waste of resources at this point.
Right.
Yeah, it used to be viable for a very good tanker in select scenarios. Not all the time, but in select scenarios, it was viable. Unless you want to just turn. At this point, you might as well just build an AT gun. It's not worth it, and I completely agree. It's a waste of resources at this point.
But I mean, let me challenge on that one a little bit because resources are no longer a concern, especially now that the default map tank spawns don't consume any resources. You're always going to have a tank there, and the AT gun is one of the most useless things in the game because it's I don't even call it a glass cannon because it can't take any shot. You know, it's dead, and its ability to influence. Like, I mean, have you guys, Koleto, have you guys actually ever been scared of an AT gun face on with you guys, or are you just like, oh, here's some free kills?
Yeah,
no, it's free kills.
It's free kills.
The reason it's free kills is because infantrymen don't know where to aim. The gun when we've been testing as part of the tank Bible, and the testing. Shameless plug. And the AT guns themselves are actually equivalent to the medium gun counterparts of the medium tanks.
That's good to know.
So you basically can penetrate the same things. The problem is mediums can't penetrate heavies. So, you know, you can shoot a heavy as long as you want. But I mean, in competitive, there's strats now for, you know, you take your AT guy level 6 and you take a support guy and you especially a flanking squad. You build that AT gun really fast, and then you shoot a couple shots into the rear of the Tiger, and then that's that. And once you kill the engine, that Tiger can't turn, and then you can just kill it all outright.
So I know there's been chatter online, you know, of upgrading, because I mean, what you're saying is, you know, if it's equivalent to the medium's gun and the medium's already useless against a heavy, you know, there was thoughts and chatter about the upgradables, you know, if it needs 100 supplies and you can get a flak, you know, or an 88, you know, something, a bigger weapon of sorts that could take on a heavy and actually do some damage. Because right now, though, nobody I know runs to get the AT gun up. There's just that point. Unless it's Omaha and you're shooting the spawns, but you know, that's something different.
Well, this might change a little bit. So Star-Lord here in chat during the live show right now, AT guns can kill an IS-1 in the front. That's valuable information to know. So I might have to think a little bit different about our AT guns. I'll also say, you talked about the support player running with the AT guy. Up patch 16, one of the notes on there was that repair stations are going to be dropping down to 50 resources to build a repair station, so giving some tankers some more love working with their infantry. You know, that could happen. And so T, I know we did some testing, right? That 2 repair stations repairs the tanks
faster.
Yeah, I was gonna say that so you get more advantage over those one-on-one engagements by working with your infantry. I'm not trying to pull this back to infantry. I'm just saying for the tankers, you know, there's these other things out there.
No, your point is well taken. Combined arms is always an advantage. That's a shout out to Double.
There you go. So, let's go and wrap this up here. I mean, I want to, before we jump into talking to new players, Koleto, anything specifically about tanking now, strategies, update 10, future looking to tank, last comments kind of on that topic? Okay, I'll start with you.
Well, I've pretty much said my piece. I mean, for new players who want to start playing the game, I would just recommend, you know, like Chokarion says, that you should find a good crew that you can work with, that you can consistently play with. And once you learn how to jive together, it becomes a really fun experience.
Indeed. T, you want to take us home?
Yeah. 100%. So shout out if you're a new player, check out the new player guide. Yeah, someone really good looking wrote the tanking section.
And modest.
And modest, yeah. The only thing I'm not good at is I'm not great at is humility, or not good at is humility because I'm great at it. Is that how the quote goes? The one thing I'll say, just last tanking thought, is I think one of the biggest problems with tanking, which we actually didn't touch on, is just the devs said they wanted heavies to be feared and rare. With the inflation of resources, they are not rare. And so kind of that frustration of being a medium coming up against a heavy, having nothing you can do, that should be rare because heavy should be rare, but the changes in resources have negated their intent. And so when they rebalance that, that might be a less common thing because you just may see them less frequently. They say they want
the
mediums to be
is
everywhere.
Only 5 minutes,
nowhere.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So if they get that balance, then I think it'll be a less pressing concern that a medium cannot fight a heavy head on. Because
if you want, and Digi hit on it, if you want to reduce the rarity, especially with Final Stand being active, increase the cooldown of those heavy tanks. Make it TK. I mean, if we made it a 20-minute cooldown for a heavy tank, too much, too little? That right? I mean,
20 sounds pretty good. I mean, every 20 minutes you're getting a heavy tank to engage with. It's improvement.
I would be in favor of like something like that and an additional mechanic that you can only have one heavy on the field at a time.
Okay. I can see that.
Koleto, where do you think as far as that spawn timer goes for tanks?
Yeah, I think the spawn timer should definitely be increased. I mean, I played Commander yesterday in the comp match, and even you have all your nodes up, and if you know how to play a good commander, then you'll, like, as Inchon has already described many times, you can end up with thousands upon thousands of resources of every kind. Yeah. So, I mean, you're just spawning those tanks off of cooldown every 5 minutes.
Make it rain!
And and because it's 5 minutes, the other, really, it's only one tank that you have to actually pay for per 10 minutes because of Final Stand.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's a scuff system. But I mean, they've said that they're going to improve on that in update 11.
Yeah, I've had good games where, my tankers were on point, and I had I had 3 tigers sitting at the HQs. It's like, you need one? Grab it. Like, there was no worry. Like, okay, yeah, that's all I'm spawning, guys. I'm not even going to spawn a panther.
Indeed. T, I know for new players, I want to make sure we put it out there. Once again, we put the website in the chat here. It's going to be in the show description of the Wikipedia. There's also a tanking Discord, which you promote highly, I believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to give a shout out to the guys who run it, whose names I can't remember. You might have them in the show notes, or I can't pronounce.
They're the makers of the Tankopedias.
Yeah, and they did a great job. And they're still assembling that community. It's been around for a little while, but it's got a huge shout out because Mono made a video that promoted it the other day. So it's like growing really rapidly. Yeah, it's a great place to jump in, discuss tanks. People share their thoughts and they test stuff out, and it's a good place to go if you're interested in tanking. So jump on in and say hello.
All right, gentlemen. Digi, you got anything final for our tankers except get in a tank and cover us?
Say watch out for the AT. That's all I got to say to you guys. I think it's been a long time coming for this episode, so thank you for your time and your knowledge with tanking. I can't wait to see what the comments are on this one because I think it was long overdue.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Thanks guys.
For having us. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Well, I think, Digi, we shouldn't go 17 episodes again without talking with some serious tankers.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think we held on a little too long on that one, and it was long overdue, like I said. Yeah, there's lots more to come. Like, I mean, I've seen pictures of the Stug. I've heard the flak tanks are coming, so I think there's a lot more to come for the armor overhauls, more vehicles, and the like. So who knows where this path is going to lead, but I think, again, just keep making those improvements. I mean, you got B+ from General T and more improvements from Koleto.
Yep.
It'll always be a constantly evolving thing, I think, in this game. Because armor just makes or breaks it. Because that game where you're like, well, we would have won if we had a tanking crew that knew what the hell we were doing.
I mean, especially, and like when you're on the infantry, when you're going against a good tanking crew, they're staying that distance, they're repositioning, they're doing all that stuff. So tanks, I love having all the best tankers on my team. I hate seeing on the other team. I think we got 2 great ones, and once again, to Chokarion, I hope you won your match today. I appreciate you putting your notes in the show notes. But I think this wraps up episode 17 for us, Digi.
Just say, I'm glad we had it, and it was today, so a little bit later than usual, but we'll be back on track with things, and really good show. See y'all on the battlefield.
Take care.